Hey y'all, welcome to Beyonce's Internet. I'm Sharonda Isadora and welcome to Brazen Babe Reviews. And during this video, I'll be talking about a book. And that book, dear people, is House of Agnes by Fiona Zedde. My ring light really be embarrassing me. But yeah, let's get into this thing, shall we? Okay, so this book I found out about, I believe, like earlier in the year. This is LGBTQ plus IA romance, or the alphabet mafia, as they like to call themselves now. So this book is under this genre. This is a female romance, or woman romance, because I know some of y'all hate the term female. But yeah, so Fiona, I think it's Zedde or Zedde, probably Zedde. But Fiona Zedde has been on my radar for a while now. I actually have one of her other books on my I think it's on my Amazon app. Yeah, I think it's on my Kindle app. But this book, The House of Agnes, is actually on my Nook app. And I've been waiting to read this book. And child, I was not disappointed. But I'm going to tell y'all, one of the main characters, her name is Lola. She worked my goddamn nerves. Lola was dumb. I'm sorry, Fiona, to say that about one of your characters, but Lola was dumb. So anyway, let me just give y'all a gist of this book, okay? So we have Agnes. I believe this is present day New York inside of this book, okay? Love the atmosphere of the book. So we have Agnes, who is head of her own house. She runs an escort business, high class escort business, okay? Ain't no old raggedy shit going on up in here, okay? So Agnes took over the business from her father, basically took the business from her father, who was, he wasn't a very nice man, okay? So Agnes took over the business and she runs it with, you know, an iron fist. But there is a softness. So so Agnes took over the business from her dad. Like I said, literally took that business from her dad, and she's ruling it now. And she doesn't so much rule because her father wasn't, like I said, he wasn't a very nice guy, you know, nice man. So, you know, she tends to run her business a little bit different. There is, even though most people have this, this idea of who Agnes is because of who her father was, and she kind of lets them run with that idea. But Agnes was totally different, okay? With her business, even though she did run a high class prostitution business, she also used her her means and her privilege, you know, as being a top person in that world. She used that to also make it a safe space for women and men that wanted to get away from the business or were being abused, you know, by their, you know, by, you know, who, whatever house they worked for, or, you know, these, you know, pimps and stuff like that. So, you know, she's using her privilege and her power, you know, as this, you know, person in the top position in that industry to make it safe for other people. But when we go inside of this book, Agnes is also having some issues because someone is trying to take her business from her, and Agnes ain't got time. She is kind of like tired of running the business, but also she's just like, y'all can pry this shit from my cold dead hands. And come on, Alexa. And people are literally trying to run that, you know, take her business from her. So she's getting all these kind of like hacks into her business, you know, all these random people trying to like, you know, come up in her business and trying to like, you know, catch her, you know, in some kind of like, you know, unscrupulous or illegal way. But Agnes always has her ducks in a row, girl, because she has a team behind her. And when I tell y'all that team ain't play about Agnes, them people ain't play about Agnes. They was like, you can try it if you want to, because we ready to beat some ass and take some lives. And I was like, that's the kind of bitches I want behind me, okay? Them is the kind of people I want behind me. Willing to just like, girl, I ain't got time. But, so also in this book, we have Lola. When I tell y'all Lola worked my motherfucking nerves inside this book, let me take a drink before I tell y'all how bad she got on my motherfucking nerves. This is wine, ain't not heavy. But Lola got on my goddamn nerves. Okay, let me take another drink because, oh girl, she got on my nerves, okay? So you can also say this is a little bit of an age gap because Agnes is older than Lola. Lola is young, fresh out of college, I guess you would say. And she is gunning for Agnes as well because she believes, in her head, she was led to believe that Agnes was the downfall of her sister's death. Okay, so she's gunning for Agnes. Okay, she's gunning for her. She want to take Agnes in the house down. And child, which I had no problem with. But Lola was moving on false information and dumbness. Lola was not a very smart person in this book. For all the college degrees that girl had, she was just not very smart. And I was just like, girl, okay, like, what are you in here doing? So when we go inside of the book, we have Lola, who has her eyes on Agnes. She wants to get Agnes, and she also has a roommate, Janika, who is an NYPD police officer or a detective, one of their like youngest detectives or whatever. So her and Janika go into this plan of like, we about to take Agnes down, you know, and the deal of it is like, you know, Janika gets this big Agnes, who's also a journalist, gets this big expose, and Janika gets like this accommodation or whatever from NYPD. Well, both these dummies was moving on false information because I was like, how you a cop and don't know nothing? But anyway, Janika and Lois were written to be very young in emotions and young in how they moved, and I kind of like had a problem with that, but whatever. So we go inside of the book, and Lola is literally like stalking Agnes because she's just that desperate to get Agnes, you know, and she tries to like convince Agnes, like initially she tries to convince Agnes, like, let me come work for you, you know, I'll be one of your girls or whatever. And her and Janika had these very arcanic kind of like thoughts about what the men and women in Agnes' business did. You know, they had a very arcanic thought about escorts and, you know, women and men that decided to lead that life, have that lifestyle. And, you know, the further we go inside of the book, we realize that a lot of people that work for Agnes, I don't know why I keep saying Alice, probably the liquor, but a lot of the people that work for Agnes worked for her because she was a generous house. She was a generous boss. You know what I mean? She didn't skim off their money. Yeah, like, yeah, they did what they did and they paid the house, but Agnes was also very generous in how she paid her workers, her escorts. So a lot of people were up under Agnes' house because it was a safe space and the motherfuckers was making money. I wish I had the notion, honey. I wish I had the notion, because bitch, I would do it if I did. But anyway, here I go. Anyway, so, you know, Lola is gunning for Agnes because she believes Agnes had something to do with her sister's death. When we go inside this story, we read where Lola is finding out about her sister's death, which I have an issue with because the way it was described, it just didn't kind of like correlate, or in my opinion as a reader, made any sense. Because I just believe that nobody's going to come tell you about a dead relative without some type of, maybe initially, you know, maybe they won't have any, you know, backup, anything like that, because government, you know, no matter the level, government, they kind of incompetent a little bit, you know what I mean? But Mimi, no. But, you know, like, going forward, especially with her best friend, her roommate being a cop, I kind of feel like they could have been like more like investigator, but because also of the lifestyle that Lola's sister led, because she was also an escort under, when Agnes' father had control of the house, she was also an escort. So because of the lifestyle that her sister led, it was also kind of led to believe like, you know, they really not going to look into it because, you know, just, you know, to NYPD, that her sister was just another dead prostitute to them. You know what I mean? So they really didn't look too much into it. So in this book, we pretty much have Lola kind of like entrap out Agnes to get Agnes, to bring Agnes down under some, you know, some fake false, you know, rage that she has. And she also believes that Agnes just like this bad person because she runs an escort business and she's, you know, manipulating men and women, and she's taking advantage of men and women and all this other stuff to work for her and all this other stuff, which I'm not saying that does not happen in that business, but the more you read this book, you know, Agnes was not about that life, you know what I mean? But you know, Lola had her thoughts, and everybody has their thoughts, so it is what it is. But inside of this book, we also, you know, like I said, we have this building a budding of a relationship between Agnes and Lola, because this is where the romance comes in this book, where there's this instant attraction between both of them. Agnes knows that Lola is out to get her for something. She knows that Agnes is not stupid, very smart businesswoman. She ain't at the top for no reason at all, you know what I mean? But her attraction to Lola also blinded her a little bit in how she moved inside of this story. Lola, although her initial numption inside of this book was to go after Agnes for what she assumed Agnes did towards her and her family, she was also starting to fall for Agnes inside of this book. As we go inside of the story, she starts seeing these different sides of Agnes. Like, you know, in the beginning of the book, she just thinks Agnes is this cruel person. Like, bitch, you out here pimping hoes, you out here pimping men and women, you using them, making money off of them, I'm about to bring you down. You know, Agnes is the evil person. But the more she starts, because literally I felt like she was fucking stalking Agnes inside this book. I felt like she was stalking Agnes inside this book, you know what I mean? But, you know, because everywhere Agnes was, Lola ass was. But that was just her trying to get in a position where she can be in Agnes' house or in Agnes' life. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. What it was. But, you know, so the more she was around Agnes, she was like, oh, I don't know now. Something's changing, because she starts seeing these softer sides of Agnes. And then Agnes starts telling her some aspects of her life and how she grew up and how her father was just like her father child. Agnes' daddy wasn't shit. That man he was a terrible ass person. He was terrible. And he was the type of man that had this business, and he slept with a lot of the women inside of his business. And Agnes' mother was in the business. Okay, and also there's a child inside of the story, Gretchen, who we kind of find out. Child, now this is gonna be the kicker for y'all. Okay, so the father also ends up taking. Now remember what I said about Lola's sister, right? How Lola think her sister dead, right? Well, I ain't gonna tell y'all too much, but we also found out inside this story that there's a little girl inside this story, Gretchen. Okay, and Gretchen happens to be when I went inside the story, I actually thought Gretchen was Lola's daughter, but she's not. She's not Lola's daughter, but Agnes' daughter. She's not Agnes' daughter. She's actually Agnes' little sister, because the father, in his taste for having the women inside of his business, was highly attracted to Lola's sister, and he decided to make, once Lola's mother, not Lola's, but Agnes' mother passed on, he decided to have Agnes, not Agnes, but Lola's sister. Lola's sister's name was Zoe, and he decided to have Zoe as his top, woman in his life or whatever. And Zoe was a very calculating person inside of the story. Zoe was very smart inside of the story. Zoe fooled a whole lot of people inside of this book, but she mainly fooled fucking Lola's ass, because Lola was so gun-ho on who she thought her sister was. But that was not Zoe. Zoe was a motherfucker inside this book. You hear me? Zoe was like, I'm taking everybody. Because Zoe felt like, so when the father passes on, Zoe thought the father was going to leave the business to her. Young. She fucking this old man, he gonna leave me everything. That man was I told y'all, he was not a nice man. He was a cruel son of a bitch. And when she found out that father ended up leaving everything to Agnes, she was mad, pissed, left everything and everybody, even her own daughter, Gretchen, which Agnes ends up taking care of, okay? So Agnes is very protective of Gretchen. She don't want anybody to know about Gretchen, just in case somebody tries to make a move towards her, or, use Gretchen as kind of like a pawn. So nobody really knows about Gretchen, but the closer that Lola gets to Agnes, she's like, who this little girl? Not doing that. That's her damn niece. I'm going to repeat that again. That's her niece. Okay. So this story has a lot of juicy details in it. Okay. But I'm going to tell y'all that Lola worked my motherfucking nerves inside this book. She just, I don't know. She just wasn't very smart. She went a lot on emotion, and going on emotion, that makes you make a lot of incorrect moves. And Lola made a lot of incorrect moves inside of this book. And I was just like, girl, what? You know what I mean? Like, what you doing? Who you doing it for? You know what I mean? But, we kind of find out by the end of this book, we kind of find out who exactly is trying to take Agnes' business, trying to take her out. And child, remember Zoe's name, because Zoe was like, bitch, if I can't have it, nobody can. I want it all. I don't care about that little girl. I don't care about that little girl I gave birth to. All I want is this house. That's all Zoe wanted, and Zoe did what she had to do. But I kind of feel like the ending of the book didn't satisfy me as a reader. I kind of felt like it was just kind of like meh, because I was just like, now why are you gonna end like this, Fiona? You got us all hyped, all into the story. We just like, girl, what? Like, ooh, we reading stuff like, and then you're gonna give us an ending like that. I don't know. For me as a reader, I just didn't think the ending made much sense, because I just feel like it was just like, what's this? Did you get it? Because I didn't get it. Because I was just like, it just didn't click for me. But you know what? It is what it is. I ain't the author. She wrote what she wrote, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? So, but I ain't really happy with that ending. Plus, I just feel like she should have just put Agnes with somebody smarter. Because, child, ma'am. So, at the end of it all, I did enjoy this book. I thought Fiona Zedde did a wonderful job with this story. Just the idea of a black woman in charge of a business like that, and just running the motherfucking shit. Like, And she had like all these people around her that was just like willing to like, you know, them motherfuckers was soldiers, okay? They was like, if the house go, we all go. You know what I mean? They were like that. I was here for it. You know what I mean? But I just loved seeing like a story like that with a black woman, like, you know, just have in her hand reins of so much power. Beautiful, you know, just beautiful. Agnes was an awesome character for me. She was such a complex character. Just to see like her range of emotions inside of this book, you know, being at that height of power and how she had to be in a heavily male dominated, you know, world, and then how she was when she was around like the people she loved and cared about, and how she was, you know, even when she was around Lola, how she just kind of like loosened up and was able to be herself. Like, she was just like the kind of character that I just love to see. Like, she was just like the epitome. She was just like, girl, I'm at work, you know, tight bun, you know, designer business suits, you know what I mean? But when she was, you know, when she was able to be loose and be with her family and you know, and do the things that she needed to do, she was just just a wonderful, complex character for me. And honestly, if not for Agnes, because at the end of the day, I got where Lola was coming from. You know, you want to find out what happened to your sister, the sister that raised you. You know, they grew up in a very abusive and toxic household, and all she knew was her sister. So I understood her, you know, just being so gun-ho about what happened to her sister, especially with her sister being in a lifestyle that she was, and basically the police not giving a fuck. Like, you know, just another dead prostitute, we don't care. You know what I mean? So I get it. But Lola was just, for me, not a very smart character. Like, the way she moved inside of this book, I was like, girl, what are you doing? And then you got a cop for a friend and both of y'all moving wrong. I don't even know, you know? And I don't know, you know what I mean? So at the end of it all, I really did enjoy this book. Just getting to know Agnes and her character, and like who was behind trying to like take over her business, and you know how she moved. Because Agnes, at the end of the day, Agnes, because they call her Queen Agnes inside of the book, because you know she had this, you know, she had to put on this face of like, bitch, I'm in charge, like, bitch, I don't like this shit, or you know, like, you know, sometimes I just feel like breaking down. But when she was ready to run her business, Agnes was running her business. And also just the complexity of her being in that business and willing to help people to get out because of how she grew up in her father's house. That her father was such a motherfucker that, you know, he was abusive, and he was willing to even just sell his own daughter's virginity because he just didn't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like, Agnes, like, we ain't having that shit over here. Okay, you went out, bitch, you can leave, or you in another house, or you just, you know, another person. You know, the author touched upon a lot of things inside of this book. Sex trafficking, and, you know, just people, you know, men and women being caught up in that lifestyle, you know, sometimes against their will, you know what I mean? And Agnes was that person for them that was going to help them get out of that. You know, she was going to do everything in her power to try to help these people get out of that lifestyle. But, yeah, this is good. But just reading, like, who's trying to get to her business, you know, in her business, and, like, trying to take over. Child, let me tell you something. If you want to be the type of person that holds a grudge for, like, forever, be the type of person like Zoe inside this book. Because Zoe is like, I'm going to hold a grudge forever. And I'm going to do everything I got to do to get what I think belongs to me. Zoe wasn't playing with nobody inside that book. And it cracked me up when Lola found out that the love that she had for her sister, kind of like blonde love and kind of like fellowship that she had for her sister ain't had it for her. Her sister was like, girl, I ain't even like you. I ain't even like you. I don't know why our parents even brought your little extra ass up in here. Like, girl. And I think because Zoe had to raise Lola because their parents kind of like checked out, that's why Zoe didn't have kind of like this motherly bond with her own daughter. Like, yeah, Fiona Zedde killed this book. She killed it, because I was like, girl, come on with it. Come on with it. It was good. I enjoyed the book. Outside of Lola just being annoying as fuck, I really enjoyed the book. Sexy times were good inside of this book. And yeah, I am looking forward to reading more books by this author. If you are a fan of just contemporary romance, or you know the LGBT, the alphabet mafia romance books, then definitely check out Miss Fiona Zedde. And that's it for me. And until the next one, later days. Bye.